What's next for the women's bantamweight division? Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence, where of course this is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC and the sport of mixed martial arts. This is your UFC 289 Aftermath show. We're going to be recapping the events from this past weekend's event, especially on the main card. And we're also going to be talking about, hypothetically speaking, women's bantamweight Grand Prix. Because yes, you're probably thinking, JK, you're mad because the UFC will never do it. But look, I put some fights together and I'm going to show you guys what that could look like if they decide to do it. And we're going to be heading over to this screen right here. So these question marks will be removed later on and you guys can see the type of fights that I've lined up for this Grand Prix. Taking us back. So yeah, you cannot wait for that. I can't wait to show you guys. But we're also going to be talking about the Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira 2. Is that going to happen in Abu Dhabi? How's that going to look like second time around? We're going to be talking about Amanda Nunes retiring herself. Is she the women's bantamweight GOAT? I think she is, but of course, we're going to be getting into your opinions as well. That's going to be really interesting to see. And we're going to be recapping, like I said, some of the main card guys. We're going to be talking through what's next for both winners and losers. So I've got some matchups for you guys as well, and there's going to be plenty more coming your way as well. So if you're just joining us for the very first time, don't forget to smack a like on the video and hit that subscribe button as well. And let's basically dive straight into it, shall we? Kicking then off with the first fight. Actually, before we kick into the first fight, we got to go through some honourable mentions of the prelims, of course, because, you know, look, we can't forget those guys. We can't forget those guys. Bit guide for Chris Curtis again. Of course, he went to a no contest against Nasruddin Imavov. Again, another headbutt as well. Feel sorry for him. He's hurting at the moment. I think he's going to look to return around, I think, November, December time, because he's going to have a kid as well. He's got a kid on the way. Shout out to Jasmine Jasdavicius, of course, picking up a decision win against Miranda Maverick. Didn't see that coming. I thought Miranda Maverick is a very strong in the women's flyweight division, and I thought she was going to pass the test with flying colours, but sadly not. And of course, Carl Nelson getting back onto the win columns as always. Keep that. I think he's on a 2-fight win streak now. So shout out to him, and of course, Stephen Eryk. Didn't see the fight. I don't know the name and pronunciation, but of course he picked up a decision win against highly ranked flyweight, in David Dvorak. So yeah, let's recap then the first fight of the night. That was Marc-André Barriault picking up the decision win against Eryk Anders. Marc-André Barriault moves to 16-6 now. He's on a 2-fight win streak. 2-fight win streak, which both have been this year as well, so he's having a very good year. He controlled the fight really from the off and sort of sapped the energy from Eryk Anders. You know, I did think that coming into this fight, I didn't think that Eryk Anders was going to be able to take Andre Barriault down. And I knew that he'd be going for takedowns. He did get the takedowns, I think, brief periods, maybe 1 or 2, but didn't really do too much about it. And it looked like that Barriault was up on the scorecards. I felt it was 29-28 in favour of Barriault, personally, giving Eryk Anders the second round, but the judges gave it 30-27 across the board. But of course, the ultimate question we're going to be talking about now is what is next for Marc-André Barriault. And I've got some good options for you guys. First up, we've got Michel Oleksiejczuk, who's currently 18-6-1. He got submitted by Barriault back in April. And to me, that fight would be a potential fight of the night. So that's the reason why I've got that in there. Oleksiejczuk comes forward. He never looks to slow down either. He's a bit relentless. Marc-André Barriault is a cardio machine. That's why he's called the Power Bar. So for that reason, I think it'd be fight of the night. He suffered against Barriault. Barriault's got great jiu-jitsu, good wrestling on him as well. And obviously we saw last time out, he's got clear better wrestling and jiu-jitsu than Oleksiejczuk. But so I think it's going to be quite competitive in the scrambles between those two, and that's the reason why I've got that fight in there. My second option is going to be a winner out of two potential fights, which I think is Jared Mearshart versus Andre Petroski. I think the winner of them could line up quite nicely. I think that fight is happening very soon. Do you know what? I've not got a hyperlink in there because I can't tell you when that's going to be. But again, for these two, I know you like, why are you throwing in the wrestlers? Well, personally, I think there's a difference, really. I think Mearshart, not so great wrestling, but great on the ground in terms of his jiu-jitsu. So I think that would be quite interesting for Barriault. Can he survive the submission onslaught attacks from Mearshart? Whereas I think the worst fight for him out of those two would be Andre Petroski. Marc-André Barriault has only been submitted once in his career. That was not so long ago against Anthony Hernandez. So the other question would be, could Jared Mearshart pull it off? Could Petroski pull it off against him? I don't know. Who knows? It makes an intriguing fight for me. I don't know about you guys. Which fights would you like to see out of those options? Would you like to see either Oleksiejczuk, would you like to see Jared Mearshart, or Andre Petroski? Let us know in the comment section below, or let us know in the chats, because it'd be good to hear your thoughts. As for Eryk Anders, though, I haven't got great ones for him, I must admit. He's now 15-8 as a professional. I've got for him either the winner of Bo Nickel versus Trajan Gore. The reason being for those is both guys they're fairly new to the game. I think Eryk Anders has kind of got quite a bit of experience, but he's been quite up and down as of recent. I felt that the matchups that he thrived in against guys who are not particularly great physically. I think Bo Nickel and Trajan Gore are very physical. But again, experience sides with Eryk Anders. So that's the reason why I've got those options there. And that fight is going to happen pretty soon. I think it's UFC 292, if I'm rightly saying. Yes, Nolan, good to see you as always, my man. How are we doing, Nolan? I've got some good fights coming up for the first guys on the main card. For Marc-André Barriault, I've got Michel Oleksiejczuk, Jared Mearshart, or Andre Petroski. For Eryk Anders, I've got the winner of Bo Nickel and Trajan Gore, or I've got the winner of Wellington Turman and Randy Brown, which that fight will be taking place at the end of this month, the 24th of June. So I know Randy Brown moving up from welterweight to fight Wellington Turman at middleweight. So either of those matchups are exciting for Anders. I think Wellington Turman, again, great jiu-jitsu, could easily catch Anders. Of course, Anders has been submitted by class guys on the ground, Andre Nunes being that last one, of course. Randy Brown, hard to say what he's going to look like at middleweight at the moment. I think he's going to be looking pretty good. I think the Wellington Turman fight is a good fight for him. The only question is, can he stuff the takedowns from Turman? He's quite relentless with them. If not, then, it'd be the same sort of outcome potentially with Eryk Anders. However, I'm not sure who hits harder actually out of Anders and Turman. My guess probably would be Anders. And of course, Anders is quite athletic himself. So Randy Brown would find that one a difficult test as well. So I think the best matchup for Eryk Anders would be either Turman or Randy Brown. But if you're going to give him a difficult one and you're going to give here, Bo Nickel or Trajan Gore the opportunity to catapult up there in terms of being a name in the sport, then you'd give him Eryk Anders. Because that's what the UFC do. They did that against Andre Nunes. And look, it was a gimme fight for Nunes in stylistically. So if you're Bo Nickel, that would be the next test. Should he beat Trajan Gore, of course. Nolan says, one of the bonuses of being off work is I'm getting to see the fights each weekend. Yes, indeed, Nolan. We've got a jam-packed one for you this weekend, of course. A fight night, which we'll get into a little bit later on, hopefully. But good to see you in the chats, as always. Can't wait to listen to your opinions. So, yeah, moving on to the rankings then. Not much has changed. other than Andre Nunes has moved up one spot in replace of Chris Curtis. They've kind of done Chris Curtis dirty a little bit here. Yes, he lost his one prior to this, and then suffered the no contest, but they've moved him down a spot. Like, all right, fair enough. I guess it kind of makes sense in a way. But it's going to be interesting to see who they give Chris Curtis next in December when he comes back. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all we've got time to talk about on the first fight of this past weekend. So moving on then to the second fight, of course, which was highly anticipated. It was going to be my fight of the night coming in. It was highly competitive, but I think Dan Ige was in the driving seat throughout, pretty much. It was kind of back and forth. It wasn't my fight of the night at the end. I think the first fight, of course, on the main card was my fight of the night, and we even tweeted it out on Sunday. Got some great inside scoop from Ash in regards to Dan Ige's next fight as well, so that's going to be intriguing to share with you. But Dan Ige, man, I think what was impressive about his performance is the fact that he's starting to incorporate these switch stances into his game now a little bit and kind of mix things up a little bit better on the feet. Didn't see any grappling. The ultimate question I think Sai was asking in the breakdown show last week was whether or not Nate Landwehr was going to be able to get Ige down, because that seemed to be Dan Ige's kryptonite in the past against Chen Sun-Jung and fighters like that. But he had no luck at all, and Dan Ige just kind of pieced him apart on the feet. 29-28 for two judges there and 30-27 for the other. Phenomenal performance. He moves to what, 2-0 now after that loss against Movsar Evelev. So he's looking pretty decent against, you could argue, two guys that weren't really ranked. Okay, actually, no, Nate Landwehr was ranked coming into this at the bottom, wasn't he? No, I think I'm wrong. I'm wrong. But I'll head back then to here. Yeah, no. So yeah, I was right. Two unranked guys. So you got to ask yourself now, he's got to be due another ranked opponent. But he's fought quite a lot of them. That's the problem. He went on that 3-fight losing skid against Movsar Evelev, Josh Emmett, Chen Sun-Jung. Prior to that, he lost against Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker took the fight on short notice. One banged him in the first round. Lost against Calvin Kattar before that. But yeah, he's not had many wins in the top 15. And I think that's what's kind of difficult for Dan Ige. Can he get it in the next fight? All the fights that I've picked for him are in the rankings. Yes, James MMA. Hello, buddy. Hello. How are you doing, my man? Did you enjoy the fights this weekend? Let's hear your thoughts on these upcoming matchups for these guys. I can't wait to share with you guys later on, because we're going to be going into a special scene, which is this one here. And I'm going to be sharing with you my ideal women's bantamweight Grand Prix. Should it happen? We got lots to get into, so stick around and look, I can't wait to get into it. But yeah, heading back then. Wrong one. No, that was the right one. Bosh. There we go, that's the one. Featherweight division then. Was a good performance from Ige, says Nolan. His stand-up looked great. Yep. I mean, look, do we think it could improve any more? It definitely looked it on the weekend. But as for what's next for Dan Ige, I've got several options for him. In fact, I've got three, okay? But the first one is the inside scoop from Ash then. So basically, Ash put a bit of a message out to Sadiq Youssef and asked him if he would be ready to fight in Ige. And he did reply, but unfortunately, the only reply we got is doubt it. So that message to us means that Sadiq is still suffering with back issues. Sadiq, we really hope that you heal up pretty soon. As much as we're loving the breakdowns, the unprofessional breakdowns week by week, we do want to see you back in the octagon. So fingers crossed we can get that happening at some point. But it doesn't look like Dan Ige will be the next opponent. If we're going to give Dan Ige the next opponent, personally, I would give him either one of these three options. I think Giga Jakadze is due a fight. Look, he's sitting there in at number 8. Of course, a couple of spots above Ige. Ige's due to fight someone up. Jakadze is yet to have a fight in 2023. Where has that guy gone? At the moment, he's taking selfies with the likes of Marab and all those guys, all the Georgians, whenever they're fighting. But he seems to be there. Let's get this guy a fight. Or, you know, he could be doing the right thing and just kind of taking things as they come and really working on his game, which, you know, got no quarrels about that. I think it's probably the right decision to make. But, of course, the fight fans, we want to see him back in there. So is Giga Chikadze the right option for Dan Ige? If it's not going to be that, I could see it being Ilia Topuria if Ilia Topuria loses to Josh Emmett. And that's a big if. Personally, I've got Topuria winning that fight, but I think Josh Emmett might be a bit difficult for him in the physical aspects. So, you know, especially with the wrestling as well. And I know that Topuria has a bit of a wrestling background himself, but it's just the frame of Josh Emmett, you know? I think that could cause him some issues. Nolan says Giga versus Ige is a great shout, JK. Thank you, Nolan. Thank you. But, yeah, which one would you prefer? Giga or Topuria? I think, look, Topuria would be an absolute banger as well against Ige. Come on. Like, hooks are going to be flying. Hooks are going to be absolutely flying. And surely that is a headliner. It would get me excited. It would get me excited as a headliner. I don't know, man. What do we think? My third option then for Dan Ige would be Arnold Allen. But the ultimate question is it possible? It is a bit of a jump because Arnold Allen is a number 4. The reason why I've got Arnold Allen in there is because, like I said, there's not that many guys in this division that Dan Ige has not fought. You could say Brian Ortega. I've left him out. Okay. He's that little bit further up there. And personally, I'm not sure if Brian Ortega would take the fight. But we could also see Brian Ortega versus Arnold Allen. I wouldn't be against that either. That kind of makes a lot of sense as well. So if that's going to materialise, then of course Dan Ige versus Chikadze makes a lot of sense. Because Ige's fought Josh Emmett, like I said earlier, Calvin Kattar. He's not fought Max Holloway, but of course, yeah, that's a bit of a jump, isn't it? Come on. Again, that's us asking for too much. But other than that, that's pretty much it. He's not fought Bryce Mitchell, but do you really want to give Ige another wrestler? I think Mitchell versus Evelev has got to happen. So for that reason, I've not got him in there. Ige versus, he's already fought Barbosa. He beat Barbosa. So not many options. But smash a like on the video if you like those options, whether it be Giga Chikadze, Ilia Topuria, or Arnold Allen. Moving on then to our third fight of the night. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Rewind. Sorry, rewind, because I forgot to go through my options for Nate Landwehr. We're getting too excited over here. When we're delivering bangers after bangers, we just get too excited and we like to move on because I've got more for you. It's just keep on coming. Nolan says, Ortega versus Allen would be a banger. Yeah, I mean, I think that fight's got to happen personally. I'm in favour of that one. So, yeah, I think, yeah. But, yeah, good shout, of course. As for Nate Landwehr, I've got 2 options for him. My most confident one would be Charles Jourdain, who's currently 14-6-1 at the moment. Of course, Nate Landwehr now moves to 17-5. Charles Jourdain is coming off of a win against Kron Gracie. I think Landwehr has a better chance using his wrestling in that fight against Jourdain. I think he's capable of potentially shutting down the flashiness of Jourdain. The ultimate question is, can he get him down and can he keep him down? Kron Gracie failed to do that, of course, but Landwehr, I think, has got better wrestling than Kron Gracie. Kron Gracie, of course, jiu-jitsu phenomenon, but lacks the wrestling. So, yeah, I think that fight would be an absolute barn burner. Again, we're just feeding you guys with potential fight of the night candidates on this show. So smack a like on the video if you've not done so already. But my other option for Nate Landwehr would be the winner of Billy Q versus Damon Jackson. I think that's a fun one. Both of those fights are great as well. That fight is taking place in August, though, so a bit some time away. Depends how quick Nate Landwehr wants to jump in there, of course, because he did. He is coming off of, what was the last fight he had? How many he's had this year? So that Austin Lingo fight was back in March, not so long ago. So he's had 3 fights. He's had 2 this year. He had 1 in 2022. He had 2 in 2021. So he's usually a 2 fight a year kind of guy. So look, maybe that would sort of marry up quite nicely. Who knows? But yeah, I think I favour the Charles Jourdain fight option there. Sorry about you guys. All right, okay, so let's probably now officially, swiftly move on then to what was our third fight of the night. Mike Malott presses us all, man. Moves to 10-1 now again shows us that not only has he got vicious striking, but he's got some phenomenal grappling to go with it as well. He picks up yet another submission this year in Adam Fugitt. I've got one option for him now. One option. I mean, you know, it's so good. And we did talk about it during the watch along as well. And that is Bryan Battle, who is currently 9-2 as a professional. So similar in experience. Battle looked phenomenal coming off of that knockout win against Gabriel Green last month. He's tough to put away as well. Making a fight with Malott very, very intriguing, because Malott just seems to steamroll through these people. You know, not only did we think he was a knockout artist, but he's submitting guys now. In fact, he's got six. No, he's already had 6 by submission. Okay. I just keep thinking he's a knockout artist because he just kind of plods. He comes forward aggressively and he throws wild. But look, he's got 1 guillotine, 2, 3. So 3 guillotines on his resume? No. 2 guillotines on his resume, 2 arm bars, and a rear naked choke and an arm triangle. So look, man, he's sneaky at sinking these chokes in, but can he do it against Bryan Battle? Bryan Battle looked very slim in his last bout. He looked fast, very slim. The only question is, can Mike Malott trap Bryan Battle and put some squeeze on that neck of his, because he's got quite a bit of a long neck. I could probably see it happening. Nolan says, great performance. The Canadians were on fire, and it's true, man. They actually were. I mean, it's quite surprising, and they kind of needed to be in a lot of ways, because the UFC have not been to Canada in so long, and they're also lacking some stars. So in order for them to return to Canada, I think they probably will next year. You know, these guys need to keep winning. And look, impressive show for them all. But smack a like on the video if you like the option of Bryan Battle versus Mike Malott. Hopefully we get that towards the front end of next year. Fingers crossed. As for Adam Fugitt, though, he now moves to 1-2 in the UFC. Pretty gutting to see. And I hope the UFC kind of keep him on, really. I hope they keep him on board. Give him one more chance, at least. You know? I've got 2 options for him. One of them who's in the UFC, has been around for quite some time. And another option from Cage Warriors, actually. My first option for Adam Fugitt, I would love to see him against Mickey Gall, who has fought Mike Malott before. You know, both guys have got a similar style to them. Both guys got some pretty good grappling. Both guys like to strike at range as well. Very tall. Gall currently he's 1 win in his last 4, which isn't great. He's coming off of that loss against Mike Malott, which was back April last year. So that's quite some time away. Surely he's due to get back in there. Who knows? I don't think he got cut, did he? If I'm wrong, please hit in the comments or in the chat that let me know if Mickey Gall got cut, because I didn't check that out. But look, if he didn't get cut, then Adam Fugitt versus Mickey Gall is the ultimate fight. Loser basically gets cut. All right. My second option for Adam Fugitt, though, I would like to see the UFC welcome back Rhys McKee. Yes, Rhys McKee, of course, who's been looking good over at Cage Warriors. He's coming off of 3 straight wins now. That last one was against Jimmy Wallhead. But prior to that, his UFC stint was pretty short. You know, he only had 2 fights, lost them both. One was against Khamzat Chimaev, if you remember, back in 2020. And then the one after that was against Alex Morono. So look, UFC, why would you not give this guy a second chance? He's looked great. You know, the finish, 3 finishes in Cage Warriors. Actually, the last one was a doctor stoppage in round 4. But still, like, he's looked good. Give him a chance against Adam Fugitt. That's what I would say. But, you know, we've got Contender Series happening very soon. So you never know. You never know. Thanks, James and Mace says Mickey Gall got cut. Okay, I did wonder that, to be fair. But look, I put that one in there because I know, matchup-wise, they're both pretty similar stylistically, as I say. But maybe, okay, the Rhys McKee option is probably better. Or, like I said, Dana White Contender Series is coming back round, so maybe it could be someone from there. Most likely. But moving on then to, of course, that was in the welterweight division, but there was no actually real changes in the welterweight division at all during these last 2 days when it comes to updating the rankings. You know, sometimes you get the random change that'll happen in a division that didn't even happen. You know, there was no fights over the weekend, but yeah, it sticks where it is for now. I've just got a chat come through. Let me get Susu on there. Okay, it was just James correcting himself. Okay, no worries, buddy. But then moving on then, I guess, swiftly to the co-main event, which is going to be a lot to talk about on this one, of course. Charles Oliveira, back to winning ways. We had a lot of questions coming into this fight. You know, where was his head at mentally after losing to Islam Makhachev? He did say after that he felt that he wasn't quite right in there, was a little bit shy in a lot of ways. Didn't show it at all against Dariush. I think a lot of people went for Dariush as well because Dariush was on a bit of a tear. You could see him causing problems for Oliveira on the ground, but man, Oliveira was unreal. You know, we thought coming into this fight that Oliveira was going to come in there a bit more patient and just kind of be a bit more reserved anyway, but keep forward and remain defensively sound at all times. But Dariush did get him down. But Oliveira's offense off of his back was just kind of too much for Dariush. You know, he had excellent control on Dariush's right wrist and was blocking a lot of strikes with his right arm and was kind of moving his hips side to side a lot. He was striking with hammer fists from the bottom and throwing elbows as well, which really put Dariush off from getting any kind of offense. He even was scrambling for the legs as well, similar to what Dariush does when his back's on the mat. But yeah, did well at keeping it on the feet, walked Dariush down, hit him with that high kick, which was impressive, and, you know, put him away with punches on the ground. Man, super impressed. The ultimate thing we can talk about, of course, is the Makhachev rematch. But I guess I should probably touch upon first what's next for Beneil Dariush. And I think we went through it during the watch long. I'm not sure if we mentioned this option or not. I can't actually remember. I was very tired at the time. And as for, I guess, most of you were. Nolan says, I was surprised at how fast he finished him. Benny has been on a great run, but Charles just dominated him, even though off his back. Exactly that. And, you know, I think from that performance now, heading into the Makhachev fight, it kind of gives Charles Oliveira fans a lot of confidence because they're going to believe that if this Charles Oliveira turns up against Makhachev, having seen that Makhachev performance against Volkanovski, then look, we could probably settle the score here, you know? And, you know, I'd be, as a Makhachev fan, I'd be worried. I would be a little bit worried. I'm not going to shy away from it. I've got to hold my hands out and be honest here. Because he did look like an absolute well-beater. The ultimate question, though, is can he get past the brute strength of Makhachev? And for me, having said this in the breakdown as well, I feel that Oliveira would need to take a bit more of a patient approach. You know, pick him apart with all your different strikes that you're going to throw, whether it be leg kicks, kicks to the body, the teeps, whatever, but just maintain some kind of level of distance. You know, if he can kind of maybe perhaps adjust those things, then maybe Makhachev would find it a lot harder to grab a hold of Oliveira. Oliveira actually pulled guard in that first initial exchange in that last fight, which was very surprising. Don't know why he did it, but I think he needs to keep this fight on the feet second time around. Okay, I went into it a little bit already. I was going to get into the Beneil Dariush matchup first and then get into that, but I got too overexcited. As for Beneil Dariush, Charles, I'll see you comment in there. I'll get to it in just a sec. As for Beneil Dariush, though, for me, I've got the winner of this weekend's fight between Arman Tsarukyan versus Joaquim Silva, who is stepping in, of course, making his UFC debut. So if I go into the rankings here, so you guys can see, I've hit the wrong button there. There we go, the lightweight rankings. Tsarukyan in at number 8. Bit of a jump, of course, for him to fight someone like Dariush, but then when you look at the available options, Poirier and Gaethje, of course, are battling it out, and that fight's going to take place, okay, in July. But the question is, well, I guess you could give him the loser of that fight. That's another option. But are they going to want to take it is the question. you know, because both of those are very entertaining fights. I think Gaethje would probably take against Dariush, but maybe not so Poirier. So it depends on the outcome of that fight, of course. But yeah, Tsarukyan, I really want to see back up there, to be honest. I really do, because he is very talented. And I felt that he beat Mateusz Gamrot in that fight. I really do. And of course, Gamrot lost against Beneil Dariush. But yeah, I just feel like he's an absolute monster as Tsarukyan. I think he offers Dariush some problems on the feet. And potentially on the ground as well. I think defensively, I think he's going to be very good defensively sound against someone like Dariush. Wait, let me just go back then. Has Tsarukyan ever been submitted? No, he hasn't. Was only knocked out once, and that was early on in his career, his second fight as a pro. So other than that, he's not really been stopped. Lost against decisions, of course, against Makhachev, who's currently the champ, and Gamrot. So yeah, I got high hopes for Tsarukyan, I really do, and I think Dariush would be the ideal next step, because they're not going to give Dariush any favourable matchups, I don't think, from here, because he's fought quite a lot of the guys as well. Let's get on then back to the chats. Pulling in nicely is Charles Barkley. Yes, Charles, whack that like button, my brother. Good to see you. He says Charles was making Benny punch the canvas. Literally, with that hip movement that he was doing from bottom, he was doing exactly that. And Charles says, you're right, Charles has to switch up the game plan versus Makhachev. Can't pull guard or accept being on the canvas. Can't rush forward. Has to fight off the back foot and let Charles come to him. Absolutely. And, you know, for that kind of game plan, I started to think it with Conor McGregor against Khabib. I started to, when that fight was made, or when it got closer to the time, I started to look into ways in which Conor can get the W. And I kind of like rode on that a little bit. And I started to then almost believe that maybe Conor McGregor could actually beat Khabib. But then I was proved completely wrong, because the game plan was completely off. But yeah, you're right. That would be the ultimate game plan. Of course, you've got to kind of pick and choose when you throw your weapons. If you're going to fight on the outside, of course. Because you absolutely cannot let your back touch that fence with any of these Sambo guys. Because you are definitely going to get shot on. So if he's able to maintain distance, throw a lot of leg kicks, fast, they've got to be quick. But he's got to master them properly as well. On the outside, as soon as he realises he's going to hit that back line, he's got to circle out of there and maintain the centre and just pick him apart, you know, gradually. The problem is, what Volkanovski was so good at against Makhachev was his speed, okay? He was able to strike and move, and Makhachev wasn't able to catch him quick enough. I mean, he caught him a good couple of times, Makhachev, and you got to give him props to that. Of course, out of that fight, Volk looked the better guy. Of course, we know that. But there were some great things that Makhachev done. And for Charles Oliveira, yeah, he's got to be quick. And he's got to maintain that centre as much as possible. Strike and move. And, you know, if he's able to wobble, be patient and wobble Makhachev, then, you know, then pounce on the opportunity. That's what I would say. I mean, even if you wobble him, you're going to win rounds. So I'm expecting a very much confident, a much more competitive fight, I think, second time around. It's going to be interesting whether or not he can settle the score or not. Nolan says, Benny versus Chandler, as Conor isn't fighting anytime soon by the looks of him. Oh, that would be pretty gutted, wouldn't it? Could you imagine it? That fight doesn't get cleared to get made and you chuck him Dariush. Ooh, I can't see it. I really can't. It's just a shame that Chandler's already fought the likes of Poirier versus Gaethje, because that would be an ideal backup fight. Fiziev, however, I would like to see Fiziev be a backup for that one. I think you've got to. I think that's going to be a high-profile fight. If Conor ever was to pull out of a fight, that just... You got to at least spice it up and give the fans something to even be remotely excited about. And I think out of those options, it would be Fiziev. It's the only real option. Of course, unless you do... No, you just can't do anything else. You can't. We're stuck. That's it. But yeah, guys, some fantastic chats so far. Keep them coming. Don't forget to hit that like button, of course, if you've not done so already. But yeah, I think, like I said earlier, for Dariush, the winner of Arman Tsarukyan versus Joaquim Silva. It's gonna be interesting. I haven't done tape on this guy yet. I will do hopefully during the week, so I'm not sure what he's going to be like. Hopefully he's a very impressive prospect. Especially if he's stepping in on short notice against someone like Sarukian. Ash says, I am here now. Boom. Hello, everyone. Sick. Give Ash some love in the chats, guys. Charles never got hurt in that last fight. That's true. I know. That's what's another surprising thing to come out of that weekend was he never got dropped against Dariush. Charles says, Conor doesn't pull out of fights. He always shows up even when he's injured. And that's very true. After watching that documentary, you did kind of almost feel sympathetic for him. You were like, if he never got that ankle injury, if he, never had those shin problems, if we had a Conor McGregor at 100%, what could that have looked like against a Khabib, against a Dustin Poirier, But again, it's just his heart and his toughness to follow through and get the bank at the end of the day, But look, if he's got to pull out, he's got to pull out. I mean, I think at this age, because he's so determined to carry on and keep going, I think that he needs to be wise now. He's got to be wise. If he's injured, he's injured. Drop out. Let it be. All right, cool. That's basically what we've got then for the co-main event. We're going to stick on by. We've got more to get through a little bit later on that, especially some of the new segments we've got Javier Mendez, Islam's coach, has weighed in with some of his opinions on the second fight. So we're going to touch upon that in just a sec. But soon it's going to get into the Grand Prix. Who's excited about the Grand Prix, guys? Look, I'm just bringing it back. Look. There's going to be some options. I've made a Grand Prix for the women's bantamweight division. Hold on still, though, guys. We're not there just yet. Heading on them back then, of course, recapping the event. The main event itself, Amanda Nunes bowing out the right way in what was an absolute dominant performance. But, I think in a lot of ways we've got to chalk it up to Irene Aldana, and there's a lot of questions surrounding her. Yes, okay, she took the fight on 1 month notice, but she didn't really kind of rise to the occasion. She got the golden ticket and she wasn't much offensive throughout. What annoys me from seeing Irene Aldana, and I've still got flashbacks from that Holly Holm fight, which she kind of followed Holly Holm for the whole time. And she did the same against Nunes, apart from Nunes was much more offensive and pushed forward a lot of the times. But when she was pressing Nunes, she wasn't really offering much. She did kind of crack her with the right hand in that first round. And at first we were like, oh, okay. But that was the only real significant strike that she landed. For me, Nunes fought the perfect game plan. I like the way that she was able to use the teep kick a lot and kind of make Aldana hesitate to come forward a bit. And just like the Pena fight, she was finding success with the takedowns later on was Nunes. Dominant performance, dominant. Yes, Raphael! Hello, Raphael! Good to see you back in the chats, my man. How are you doing? Hope your week has started off well. And let us know what you felt of the fights this past weekend. And especially some of the upcoming ones that I've got going to be giving you in just a sec with the Grand Prix. Man, I can't wait. I'm so chuffed that I've put this together. You have no idea. Nolan says, undoubtedly the female GOAT. Yeah, that's it. That is it. There is no question about it. I'm a little bit gutted we didn't see a rematch with Nunes and Chris Cyborg, but, at the same time, it was the way she beat Cyborg as well was just too much. Too much, man. But yeah, okay, should we get into this now? Should we get into the Grand Prix? I mean, I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Okay, let's head on in then. Okay, before I reveal what I've got, I'm going to ask some questions for you guys. I'm going to answer some questions for you guys. Now, why is this a good idea? Why is this a good idea? Because you're probably thinking, JK, you're absolutely batshit. And yes, I might be, okay? Because maybe it's not going to happen. Okay, it's very slim. But for me, I think it's a good idea that it should happen because there just isn't much excitement in this division after Nunes has retired. There simply isn't. When you look at it now, a lot of the matchups have already taken place. And if you're going to throw a matchup out there for the vacant belt, is anyone going to be excited about it? Okay, I guess it could be on a co-main event, as a card filler. Absolutely. But are people going to be excited about it? And for me, I think the reason why I've decided to do a tournament, and it's time to bring back tournaments to the UFC, is I think the tournament would make us fans disregard the fact that some of these fights have already happened. It's the ideal thought of like, oh, if this person wins, they then fight this person if they win their fight. And the matchups have already like are set out almost, And of course, Bellator do it very well. I think one championships now start to do tournament-based Grand Prix as well. Look, what shame is there doing the same? I honestly don't get it, especially when the UFC, I think, are in this spot at the moment where their tails are being chased by the likes of PFL. PFL are in the verge of buying Bellator, so they're going to be doing tournament-based. Well, actually, maybe they won't. So it might be a good idea for the UFC to do it. But again, we don't know when that merger is going to happen because PFL got their own league. Okay, so all of the fighters, they're going to bring in more fighters from Bellator, increase their league, and it's going to be probably carnage. Maybe I'd be interested to see if they stick with it personally. But I guess the ultimate question as well is, will it ever happen? Because yeah, like I said, you guys are probably thinking I'm crazy. I want to say no, but I'm going to be hopeful. Like I said, I'm going to be hopeful because of the reasons that I set out a second ago. There does need to be some change around here. There does, and that, that's why I think it will happen. Charles says, I don't think the UFC will do a tournament because they don't want to be seen copying another promotion. And yeah, that's my main reason why I don't think it will happen. I know that is true. They don't want to seem weak. It's there's so many power plays between these promotions, but it is a tough one. Would you like to see it? That's the only question. Oh, sorry, I'm completely covering my face here with this chat. Oh, mate, I'm having a mare with this one. I should probably bring that down. Okay, it's going to cover that bit. There we go. All right, we'll bring it in there. Are you guys ready for me to reveal these matchups? Okay, because some of them, have already been booked, but we'll go through them, okay? You ready? 3, 2, 1... Bosh. There we go. There's the matchups. You're probably like, what is this, JK? What have you done? You've really outdone yourself with this one. Well, maybe I have. But personally, okay, let's just get through it here. I know which ones you kind of question yourselves about, but I've got reasons for them. First fight I'm going to go for, Nate Landwehr versus, Penny Kianzad. From Sweden. She's coming off a win against Lena Landsberg. That fight is happening in July 22nd. I think that's a good fight. Nate Landwehr, I thought, was pretty much a dark horse in this division, but she did fall short against Raquel Pennington, who is currently ranked in number 2. Which sucks. Which is why I've not put... Actually, I have put those two on the same side. I've kind of evened that out purely because of the way that we've got Home versus Beno Silva happening as well. That's going to be the first fight. That is the first fight. July 15th. So that would be kicking off the Grand Prix here. And I think it's better to zigzag it like that, isn't it? Than just do one side, then one side. So that's why I've got it like that. But of course, there is a possibility of a rematch between Pennington and Vieira. What do you guys think? What do you guys think so far? Ash says, I think it's a good idea, but yeah, UFC won't do it. Okay, but what do you reckon about these matchups then? I'll go through the backups in just a sec as well. So Home versus Beno Silva. That's currently number 10th ranked in Beno Silva, fighting number 3. So that's a big jump. As you can tell, Holly Holm, there's not a lot of matchups in here for her. So now she's fighting all these people that are way down there. And Beno Silva's on a 3-fight win streak. She's also coming off a win against Lena Landsberg, which was Fight Night 219, which was Andrade versus Blanfield. She's 10-2 as a professional. Looks really good, of course. She's back-to-back submission wins as well. 7 submission wins as a pro. Can she submit and get a hold of Holly Holm is the ultimate question. Who's going to win that fight? Personally, look, it's another typical Holly Holm fight. She's 40 years old, but she's still impressive. Cold-blooded, the next double champ. Are you referring to Holly Holm potentially being a 2-time bantamweight champ? If you're looking at this Grand Prix, so I think Holly Holm is just going to run around the octagon as she always does, pick her apart as she does. I really do. Nunes says that's a good shout. They need to do something now. Amanda has retired. Yeah, I think she leaves a massive hole in this division now. She really does. Pena versus Aldana, a fight that's not happened as well. I think you got to kick things off with fights that have not happened. Very intriguing on this one. There's going to be some more matchups to do with Pena. We're talking about in just a second, the news segment. But the reason why I've picked this fight and not the Pennington one is purely because Pena's got that rib injury that she's coming back from. Aldana's just fought and has got suffered some damage against Nunes. So I'm thinking that perhaps time-wise it's going to marry up. Otherwise, if you took time away from it, then of course Pennington versus Pena makes the world of sense. Because these two have not fought before. Plus, they were, I think, slated to fight in the Ultimate Fighter final, if I'm correctly if I'm correct with that one. So, yeah, you could argue and say if you're not going to do a Grand Prix, that is the fight to make for the vacant belt, which is true. But look, we're not going to feed it straight away in the Grand Prix. Of course we're not. We're going to build up to it. We're going to see if both of these girls can meet in the middle. That's the ultimate question. No, that's Erin's nickname. Oh, cold-blooded. Okay. I actually didn't... Is that a recent nickname? Because I didn't really know that. There we go. Charles Barkley throwing in the stuff. Next double champ. Look, you could see it. But the reason why... I'm moving on then to Pennington versus Blanchfield, which is a bit of a wild card. The reason why I've got this one in there is because Blanchfield did actually kind of pipe up and say that she wouldn't mind a crack at bantamweight, and that's the reason why I put her in there. And if you're going to put her in there, the next available option would be Raquel Pennington. I mean, look, she's ranked up there in the women's flyweight division, so you could, the argument for a top-ranked person makes sense. Other than that, in the rankings. If I go back to this scene here, then as you can see from the rankings there, some of the matches that I've still played that aren't in the Grand Prix, you've got Yana Santos versus Meishi Chasson, and you've got down below there, wow, she's not going to get any of those. You've got sort of Carol Rosa in number 9 as available option. But apart from that, that's about it for Blanchfield. So if Blanchfield is feeling froggy and she wants to make the move straight away, then why not? That's what I would say. Why not? So Pennington would be your best bet for that reason. Ash says, look what they did when DJ was champ. Did a whole tough because no one could beat him. And yeah, and now Nunes gone something like this makes sense. Absolutely. It does spice things up. And I don't think that the UFC can afford to do a whole tough series based on who the next challenger is. I just don't think there is. I think we're quite slim in terms of female bantamweights in the world. I really do. But yeah, that's the Grand Prix that I've got at the moment. Let us know in the chats and the comment section as well who you think could be in the final of this Grand Prix. If I'm looking at it now, if I wanted to say... I kind of want to say Holly Holm and Erin Blanchfield. Imagine that. Holm and Blanchfield. But then at the same time, you got to think, well, Blanchfield likes to take it to the mat. Would she have a hard time against someone like Ketlin Vera if Ketlin Vera gets the job done against Chiesa? Don't know. A lot of questions surrounding Erin Blanchfield at this weight class. There really is. We could go all day talking about this. But yeah, if I did have to check, look, we could see a rematch against Holm versus Vieira. But look, like I said, I know it's already happened. It wasn't that long ago. But it's It's a Grand Prix. It's a Grand Prix. Grand Prix would get me excited. And I think the fans would be excited by this. My backups, though, however, as you can see down there, Santos versus Chasson, winner. 1st of July. Of course, it would depend on... I think those two would probably get first dibs because they're higher up the rankings. Whoever wins that, it depends on injuries, of course, as well. But as you can see there, that fight is taking place the 1st of July. So look, a lot of these fights are happening in July. So if the UFC are going to announce a Grand Prix, it's time to do it. So yeah, and then other than that, Cal Rosa, of course, so I mentioned earlier, is not booked. She's ranked in at number 9. And Miesha Tate, because she's a former champion. Why not? I mean, you know, she had that crack at women's flyweight. Did it go well? No. Is she going to stick at that weight class? I highly doubt it. Age is not really on her side. You could slot her in at any point, personally. And look, it would be a massive FU to the rankings for these backup people. It really would. Because, look, you could have Miesha Tate in at number 11 fighting Raquel Pennington, a win against Raquel Pennington, well, even though that fight has already happened again. Could she get one back against Pennington and slot right up in there? Who knows? A lot of movements. But yeah, another name that I've not put in there because this person decided to pipe up and we're going to talk about it in just a sec is Jermaine Durandamy. Funny that, isn't it? As soon as Nunes retires, Jermaine Durandamy just comes out of nowhere. So she would fit right in there. And to be honest, I'd probably fit her in there. I think the UFC would rather do Pennington versus Durandamy. I would. Those two have fought before. Which I think was when was that? That wasn't too long ago, I want to say. Oh no, sorry. It was quite some time ago. 2018. So look, a rematch is possible. Why wouldn't you? The one she had fought recently was Ketlin Vieira, which was back in 2000. Sorry, am I looking at the wrong person? No, yeah, Pennington fought Ketlin Vieira and beat her split decision. That was her last fight. But the juicy what's latest with Jermaine Durandamy, we're going to get into in just a second, different segment. There we go, and Nolan's even agreeing with it as well. So yeah, okay, that basically wraps up then the Grand Prix. Smash a like on the video if you think it's a good idea. If you also think that perhaps some of these matchups need to be changed, also get in the comment section, get in the chat option. Let me know what you would do instead, because I'm intrigued to listen. And of course, opinions matter most on this channel. Charles Barkley said, if Pena or Blanchfield becomes bantamweight champ and calls out Nunes, you think she comes back for one fight like GSP? No, I don't think she would. With that first Pena fight, we did feel that she was 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door, and it kind of shows now that I think it would take a lot for her to come back. It would be a super fight. It really would. Putting this out there, not going to happen, but a wild card. If Kayla Harrison made the trip over to UFC, if it did happen and she was able to get one win, that's the only option. That's the only fight I think that would get Amanda Nunes back. Honestly. Because other than that, there isn't really anything else. I don't think there is. As much as I do enjoy seeing Erin Blanchfield, I think she's going to lack a bit of height in that division. And I think she could very well get bullied by a lot of these girls. Yes, MMA Anomaly. He says, what's up, JK? He also says, oh, I've lost my cursor. Come on. He also said, no chance that Nunes comes back. She seems Khabib-like in the fact that when she walks away for good. Yeah, no, I'm feeling that as well. But Olin, let us know what you think of my Grand Prix. Would you change any of these options? And if so, let me know. Nolan says Pena didn't do herself any favors the other night during Amanda's speech. She came off as a terrible loser. Yeah, it wasn't a good look, was it? Shouting from the crowd, like booing her, and and saying that, you know, she's afraid to fight her. Come on, man. Well, you got beat down for 5 rounds in that last fight. You know? I think that's worse than getting TKO'd in the second round, in my opinion. You know? Because if you get TKO'd in the second round, then you're like, okay, you TKO'd me, you got the finish on me, I got the finish on you, let's make a third fight. Yeah? Because you got the piss beaten out of you for 5 rounds, it just doesn't really warrant about it. You know, it doesn't. If it was competitive 5 rounds and a close decision, then yes, you have the right to basically slander Nunes and say, look, you're avoiding me. But other than that, like, I can't see it. And, you know, as some people say, I don't keep scores, I settle them. You know, and I guess that's what Amanda Nunes' opinions are on that. But yeah, okay. Top stuff in the chats, guys. Let's move on then to... let's clear the chat. Come on. Ash says, yes, JK, that's the only fight. Agreed. Thank you. Completely agree, JK. She was dominant in the second fight. Yeah. Far too dominant. All right, okay, cool. Let's move on then to the news segment of the show, where we just kind of look at what's been talking about from the news outlets and pick a couple of things that we can kind of get into a little bit more detail. So the first one that I've got up here is, of course, Pennington calls for a title fight with Juliana Pena, which I mentioned a second ago, which I think is the most logical fight if you're not going to do a Grand Prix. Okay, I know it's not. You like JK, sit down, it's not going to happen. Okay, we'll move on. But if it's not going to happen, then, of course, this is the fight to make. And look, you know, Raquel Pennington says, me versus Juliana, got the world title. Dana always thought from tough we would face each other at the finale. Wasn't the journey then, but here we are now. And yeah, it makes sense, but does it excite you? It's not happened before, which, okay, is a good thing. It's a plus, it's a positive, but it's a co-main event at best, isn't it? You know? Because Nunes was really holding that division up. She really was. I think, look, and a lot of time, for a long period, people were slandering women's flyweight and saying that was dead. Women's flyweight is far more entertaining, I think, than this women's bantamweight division. And I'm putting it out there now. MMA Anomaly says, Grand Prix looks fantastic. Mixed bag of fun. Only thing I might change would be Fugitt versus Aldana and Pena versus Vieira. Yeah, no, I like that. The reason I've got them in there is because those fights are booked. That's the only reason, you know. And if those fights are booked, then, you look, now's the time to make that Grand Prix, you know? Kick it off soon. It's cringy, but Pena has to do it. At least she's making some headlines. That's true. That's true, Charles. That is the flip side of it. And look, we can always count on Charles Barkley in the chats to give us a complete different spin. Props to Charles Barkley. Hit a like on the video for him. Yeah, it is true. You know, it's almost like the Colby way of doing things. She's then gonna become this heel of the division. And people are going to tune in to watch her lose. And, you know, I think, you know, she's going to find a tough time, perhaps, in this next fight against Pennington. Imagine if Raquel Pennington becomes champ. That'd be wild. Never would have thought it. It's like Rocky Pennington. It'd be the Bisping story. It would. It'd be like a Michael Bisping story. Again, similar scenario here, comparing divisions. When you had Anderson Silva fell off the edge and we had multiple different champions. That's what I can see now in this bantamweight division. So maybe it could spice up because of that. But that's my thought. I don't think anyone's going to be keeping the belt for long. But yeah, as you can see then, the other headline that we've got for this is Jermaine... I keep saying her name wrong, don't I? Come on, slow down. It is Jermaine Durandame. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? It really is. It gets on your lips a little bit. She kind of spoke out to Brett Okamoto, actually, and to the UFC Wait, hold on. I'm reading this right. Spoke to the UFC a week ago about her pending return, likely looking around September, October. So, okay. Again, if I go back to the Grand Prix, it fits in nicely again for Pennington versus de Randamie at the top there instead of Blanchfield. But yeah, heading on back then. Yeah, for me, Pennington wants to return. She beat Pena back in 2020, some time ago. So, look, the stars have aligned, really. And you probably want to slander her for coming back on the eve of Amanda Nunes' retirement, right? Because she beat Pena, she should step in there for a title fight. Should she not? You could argue that. And yeah, I can see you're probably slandering, you're probably thinking, you're an absolute, swearing all over the gaff, the fact that she's coming back at this time. But the reason why she's come back at this time is because she did announce back in September that she was pregnant. So she's had a kid. And yeah, you're probably like, JK, do the maths, that doesn't work out. But I think she was pregnant prior to September. I think she probably kept it quiet for some time. But she announced it to the MMA media back in September. So, look, if she's going to come back October time, then yeah, man, do it. I'd like to see her come back. I really do, because she is very talented. And for me, going back to Nunes' retirement, I think her best fight was against Jermaine de Randamie. I really do. I think that was so back and forth, and a close decision in that one. De Randamie did well. She really did. But yeah, throw her in there against Pennington is a good option. If you want, because Pena's not going to be ready anytime soon. Charles Buckley said women's flyweight has like 45 fighters and bantamweight only has like 22, I think. That's crazy. That's a crazy stat from Charles Barkley. I mean, the UFC have been doing some signings lately from female fighters. I've seen some coming in from the flyweight division, strawweight division. Have you guys seen any from the bantamweight division? Where are all the women's bantamweights at? UFC needs to get signing now. It's transfer window. It really is. Sean Shelby, Hunter Campbell. It's transfer window season. Get it sorted. Pena has become a female Colby Covington, says MMA Anomaly. Got to agree with you there, buddy. And he says, the only difference is every now and then Colby says something clever or funny. True. Can't see Pena being very funny, really. Hit the like for JK and chat. Salute, says Charles Barkley. Thank you, sir. Thank you. MMA Anomaly says, I could see Pennington get the belt, hold it for one defense, and then retire. Yeah, same. I mean, how old is she at the moment? That's the question. She's not that old, is she? Come on, screen. I want to say she's in her 30s, right? She's in her 30s? Oh, goodness sake. Why is this? Pennington, do you know what? This is really annoying me now. Sherdog. Why have I got Sherdog? Because they're just throwing me with pop-ups. She is 34, so she's got some good time left, I think. But yeah, maybe you could be right, because she's settling down with her kiddo as well now. So all the women's bantamweights are having kids at the moment. So, kid season. Congratulations to Michael Cully from the channel as well, who's just had a baby boy in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. Charles Barkley says, also, Colby is a world-class fighter and top 5 draw in the UFC, and Pena isn't, though. Ooh. Throwing shades on Pena here. Nolan says, yeah, true. It's just an act I've never got along with. Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I just failed to get on board with it. I really do. It normally says transfer window season. Haha, I actually get that joke now that I've watched a handful of soccer games this year. Oh man, look at you getting in the football season. What do you reckon? What do you reckon's going to happen in the transfer window? And who you back in? What moves you back in? Yeah, get at me, bro. Get at me. But yeah, that's all I got on time for on this side of things. Then let's move swiftly on to the other thing that we've got, which of course it'd be wrong to just not talk about Charles Oliveira a bit more, wouldn't it? He is the first fighter to reach 20 finishes in the UFC. So for that reason, he's got to be a future Hall of Famer, without a doubt. But is Daniel Cormier going to disagree with it? That's the question, because he disagreed with Jim Miller, and Jim Miller currently basically has the most fights in the UFC division. So, what do you think? Is Charles Oliveira a future Hall of Famer? Absolutely. He's a former champion as well. So, yeah, I think so. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is Javier Mendez, Islam's coach, thinks that Oliveira has earned his title shot. And he says Charles has earned that right to be number one in the line for it. It's what the fans think. It's what the UFC thinks. So, in a lot of ways, he's saying they've got no choice. There is no other option. But he also says, I didn't know who was going to win, but I was crossing my fingers it was going to be Beneil. And that's probably because he wants a different, unique challenge for Islam. Personally, I think that's the reason. And he says, I for sure didn't think Charles was going to be that impressive in victory. I did not think that. He totally, unexpectedly shocked anything to do with I thought he was capable of doing. So, yeah. I kind of knew he was going to get a TKO win. I predicted a TKO win, and I thought it was going to come in round 2, though, after a competitive first round. But, yeah, a dominant display. But yeah, I think second time round, much more close. The fact that it's going to happen in Abu Dhabi is the fact that Charles came out and said, look, we'll do it in Abu Dhabi again. I think it's crazy. It's like if I was Charles, he should be like, let's do it in Brazil. Even Makhachev said he'd be willing to do it in Brazil as well. The fact he didn't take him up on that option first, madness for me, Again, why would you play 2 away games? Why would you play 2 away games for? Bring it home. Transfer window open. Pena signs for Bellator, says Ash. Oh, mate. I don't know why DC is hating on Jim Miller, says Charles Barkley. Me neither, mate. Me neither. Jim Miller's a stud, man. And the fact that he's still doing it and still picking up wins is impressive in itself. So why wouldn't you? I think he's got to get some honours for just being the utmost toughest dude in ever. And me normally says, this fight did not go how I expected it to. Charles looked better than ever on the feet. Not only did he look strong and long with his striking, but he looked loose and comfortable. And yes, that is very true. And that is the ultimate question heading into the second fight against Islam Makhachev is, can he be the same? This version of Charles could be a big problem. Absolutely. Like I said early on in the show, I feel that as a Makhachev fan, it does worry you a little bit. But he's got to show up on Abu Dhabi. That's the big if. Nolan says former champ will always go in the Hall of Famer. I think, yeah. True for that. And Ash says, yeah, mate, he for sure is a problem. I think that's meant to say there. And MMA Anomaly says, as someone who's met and learned techniques from DC... and as a big fan of DC, he needs to back off when it comes to Jim Miller. Ooh. Fighting talk there from MMA Anomaly. DC, watch your back, because, look, we've also got a Jim Miller fan in the house as well. Smash a like on the video for MMA Anomaly. Because, I got to agree with you there. Got to agree with you. Absolutely. Moving on then to the other thing, which is what Makhachev came out with straight after the fight. He congratulated Charles, and he said, but still there's levels in this game. So, Volk fans are going to pipe up, of course, after this. There's no doubt about that. And basically saying that Volk is on another level in comparison to Makhachev. But okay. But, of course, Makhachev had to come out there and put some kind of statement out there, being the champ. I think you got to. But Oliveira says, thank you. Levels are part of the game. See you soon. So could Oliveira be insinuating that he has moved up a level now? What do you guys think? I think that's what he's doing. He's saying, let's go, Makhachev. I'm ready. Can you take me at this level? That's what I think he's saying right now. And like I said, I'm expecting a highly technical bout. Could go the full 5 rounds. And look, the only question I guess for you guys is, if Oliveira beats Makhachev this time around, 1, do you do a third fight? 2, do you think that everyone's going to be jumping on board and saying that Oliveira is the best lightweight of all time and surpasses Khabib, having beaten somebody with the same similar style as Khabib? Could you deny, Charles? Can you? My argument would be, I think you'd have to run it back a trilogy for the ultimate decider. What I feel for Makhachev in this scenario is that, yes, he had a close fight against Volk, which didn't do him any favours in terms of being in a potential future greatest lightweight of all time category. But the fact that he's having these fights, these high level fights, and he's not really, I think they'd be the best of the best at the moment. If you beat Charles again, after that, they were all fights that are winnable fights for him, in my opinion. Your Dustin Poiriers, your Justin Gaethjes, people that Charles Oliveira has already beaten, are they really that exciting? In which case, and those guys are getting on a little bit as well. You need some more contenders to come through to really kind of wet your beak a little bit here. Nolan says, Charles, yeah, it seemed a weird thing for DC to come at him like that. Anomaly says, this is true. I think especially after that Islam versus Volk fight, Islam is going to come out looking like he's surely leveled up. He's 1-0 over Charles already. I think we see similar play out again. Oh, so he's siding with Makhachev. Nolan says Islam has the confidence of beating him fairly handedly in the first fight. Yeah, true. He's going to be coming into that fight. That's absolutely true. Ash says this version of Charles still loses to Frankie Edgar. There we go. There's Ash's comment, of course. You knew that was going to be coming. Having already got a win over Oliveira. Strong believer is Ash on that one. And normally says, whether Charles comes out and beats him for 25 minutes or starches him in 30 seconds, yes, you run it back. Islam dominated him handily in the first fight. True, yeah. Again, it's a similar scenario to Pena versus Nunes in a lot of ways. If it plays out like that, you're going to want to see a third... Why are you going to want to see a third fight? If Charles was to 50-45 him, then do you want to see a third fight? I don't know. I really don't. But I don't think that. I think that's highly slim. I think it'd be competitive. Charles says Charles is the best lightweight of all time. If he beats, he will be. He will solidify that. Look, I can make the I completely understand the arguments for it. I really do. And if that was the case, then yeah, for Islam, oh man, a lot of people are then going to doubt Islam and really throw hate towards him. They're really going to mock him for being this next Khabib. And not only that, people are going to really start to believe that Oliveira would beat Khabib. They would. And I don't really want to agree with it, but I think I'll have to. There's no denying it, because Makhachev's got better striking than Khabib. He does. But Khabib does that one thing that the Sambo grappling, he was just better than Makhachev, I think. I don't know. It's hard to say, isn't it? It's really hard to really tell. But every opponent he did it to, he did it effectively and showed barely any chinks in his armor. Ash says, I know it's crazy. People 100% forget Islam ragdoll Charles. I mean, they're going to forget. They're really going to forget. All right, guys, man, we could talk about this all night. You guys have been phenomenal in the chat, as always, but I'm going to have to wrap this up. Let's head on back through to here then. This weekend, we got to watch along. I mean, first of all, we got Ash coming next tomorrow with his episode 3 tough review. So do make sure you tune in for that. He's going to be talking about the events from that episode. Couple of chats in then before we wrap up. Charles, in my opinion, is like 10th all time in UFC right now. Oh, pound for pound. Okay, yeah. He actually did move up in the pound for pound rankings. I think he's 7th now. I normally said I just cackled like a super villain when you said if Charles 50-45s him. Amazing. I mean, look, I don't want to see it. That's how unrealistic that feels to me. I know. Yes, Matt W. Yes, my man. Good to see you in the chat. Where have you been for this whole episode? Smash a like on the video and make sure you rewatch the video back because we've spoken about a lot of good things here. He says Yair needs to get injury so we can have Volk versus Olive fight. Ooh. Matt could be onto something here. He could be, but I think that's got to happen pretty soon, isn't it? Because the nearer it gets to that time, the less likely you'll fight a lightweight, I reckon. I don't know. You know, if it's fight week and Yair pulls out, then maybe you could have a backup at featherweight, I think. But nice one, Matt. Good comment in there. Smash a like on the video. You've not done so already. But yeah, wrapping this up then, of course, like I said earlier, tough show tomorrow with Ash. This weekend, we're going to be live for yet another watch along, which will be the Marvin Vettori versus Cannonier fight. But also, make sure you watch the prelims because we've got our pal, a good friend over on the channel, Modestus Pakauskas here. He's going to be fighting Zach Palga. Da-da! There you go. There's a little clip of him choking me out. Thought you guys might enjoy that. But yeah, he's going to be first up on the prelims, and make sure you tune in for that fight because we're not going to be live for it, unfortunately, but we'll record our reaction to share with you guys. So don't worry about that. But yeah, we'll be live for the main card with the breakdowns as usual, with the fun stuff. With the picks, maybe some guest fighters. We're due some guest fighters back on the watch long, so fingers crossed for that. Make sure you hit the notifications bell if you've not done so already, so then you know when we're live. And look, you guys have been amazing as always. Stay safe, stay sexy, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao for now.